Hello, my friends. Welcome to 30 Albums for 30 Years. I'm your host, Jay Sweet, another special global pop episode, and we just enjoyed the Pennsylvania Polka as performed by Frankie Yankovic, a song written in 1942. So yes, you guessed it, today's episode is about polka music. Let's check it out. There are many European regions that have a folk tradition that includes polka dance and music, but the region that is generally considered the birthplace of polka is Bohemia, which eventually became Czechoslovakia and then the Czech Republic. Now, Bohemia began to emerge as a cultural center in the 14th and early 15th century. Then there was a series of religious conflicts which led to the 30 Years' War, which began in 1618, lasted through 1648. It was one of the longest and most destructive conflicts in European history, killing an estimated 4.5 to 8 million soldiers and civilians. So after the 30-Year War, Bohemia remained part of what was called the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and they lost some of their political autonomy. The 19th century saw a revival of Czech nationalism and cultural identity. Then World War I led to the destruction of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and Czechoslovakia was formed in 1918. Bohemia became a core part of this new independent state known as Czechoslovakia. Then World War II, Czechoslovakia was occupied by Nazi Germany. After the war, it fell under the influence of the Soviet Union, and the communist regime was established. In 1989, there was an event called the Velvet Revolution, a peaceful protest movement that led to the overthrow of the communist regime. Czechoslovakia eventually transitioned to democracy in 1993. It peacefully split into the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Polka music emerged in the mid-19th century as a dance and a musical style. It is attributed to Bohemian musicians, Czech musicians, and is believed to have been developed in the 1830s. In fact, the name polka is derived from the Czech word polka, meaning half, as the dance patterns involve a quick half-step dance pattern. Polka quickly gained popularity and spread throughout Europe. It became a staple in ballrooms and dance halls with variations of the dance and music appearing in different regions, most notably Austria, Germany, and Poland. Johann Strauss II, son of Johann Strauss, both fantastic classical composers, comes from Austria, and he was a writer of light music, particularly dance music, operettas, violin music, quadrilles, these kind of things. He wrote over 500 waltzes as well, which earned him the title, the Waltz King. You might know his waltz, Blue Danube Waltz. Born in 1825, and he lived till 1899, Strauss II would often incorporate folk melodies into his classical composition, including polkas. His compositions such as Trich Trach Polka and Pizzicato Polka contributed to the popularity of the polka genre. Today we will be reviewing the Pizzicato Polka. It's a piece of orchestral music by Johann Strauss II, composed it with his brother Joseph in 1869 after a trip to the Imperial Russian region. It was published in 1870. The polka was written for string orchestra and glockenspiel originally. It was hugely popular, especially in Italy, where it was included on every program that Strauss played there. Let's check it out. The Pizzicato Polka. Polka music found its way to the United States through European immigrants, especially those from Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Germany in the mid-19th century, and it thrived in immigrant communities, particularly in the Midwest. Now, over time, polka music has diversified into various regional styles, including Polish polka, Slovenian polka, German polka, and each style has its own characteristics, its own instrumentation, and its own dance steps. Polka music enjoyed a peak level of popularity in the United States during the mid-20th century. It was featured on television and on radio programs. Many youths were playing the accordion at that time, a central instrument for polka music, and it would be heard at weddings and festivals and social events. Now, polka's popularity has waned in many areas, but it remains a vibrant genre, and some contemporary artists continue to create and perform polka music or incorporate it into their music. There's also a lot of polka festivals. Various polka festivals and events are held throughout the United States, attracting larger audiences and preserving the tradition of polka music. In terms of the actual music, polka music is characterized by its energetic tempos, which allows for these distinctive dance steps, and the usage of instruments like the accordion, the clarinet, the trumpet, and the tuba. We began today's program by listening to the Pennsylvania Polka as performed by Frankie Yankovic. Frankie Yankovic is often referred as the Polka King. Yankovic was born to Slovenian immigrants in 1915 in West Virginia, but was raised mostly in Cleveland. The accordionist is widely responsible for popularizing polka, and he sold over 30 million albums in his career. While as a young boy, Yankovic's father was on the run from authorities when his bootlegging business was discovered, and then he settled in Cleveland, and soon thereafter his family followed. While in Cleveland, he became inspired by the many brass bands that he heard as a youth playing at the local Slovenian functions. The family would take in boarders to earn money, and one such boarder was a guy by the name of Max Zolodek, who arrived at the house with a button box accordion. Young Frankie, who was 9, enjoyed hearing Zolodek play the instrument, and then he acquired one, and Zolodek began teaching the young boy. After developing his skills on the instrument, Frankie Yankovic began performing and working as a musician in the 1930s, and began appearing on radio programs and making records. He then got married in 1940, but he wasn't earning enough as a musician, so he opened up the Yankovic Bar, a popular tavern and a hang for local musicians. In 1943, he enlisted in the Army, sent to Europe, where he served as a flamethrower operator and even fought at the Battle of the Bulge, where a case of frostbite nearly led to the amputations of his hands and his feet. But he was able to recover without surgery, received a Purple Heart, and was reassigned to the entertainment unit. After or during periods of leave, Yankovic would cut some records, and he received 2 platinum singles with Just Because, 1947, and then another with Blue Skirt Waltz, 1949. And more hits followed. His reputation further grew when he was awarded the title of Polka King after winning a competition in Milwaukee in 1948. At his peak, he would play about 325 shows a year, spreading polka throughout the world for decades. Now we will check out the Beer Barrel Polka, one of the most famous polka songs of all time. The song was composed in 1927 by Czech musician Jaromír Vejvoda, and the polka became famous worldwide and has been performed by the Andrew Sisters, the Glenn Miller Orchestra, Benny Goodman, Joe Pytak, and of course Frankie Yankovic and his band, the Yanks. Yankovic's version is played during the 7th inning stretch at all Milwaukee Brewers home games. Enjoy the Beer Barrel Polka. Lawrence Welk was born in 1903 in the German-speaking community of Strasburg, North Dakota. Lawrence Welk was a famed accordionist, bandleader, and the host of the popular Lawrence Welk Show from 1951 through 1982. That's a television program. Now, through his efforts, he helped popularize accordion music and polka. As a youth, he convinced his father to purchase an accordion for $400. That's like the equivalent of $6,000 today. So as repayment, he promised that he would work on the family farm till the age of 21. He fulfilled that promise, and he left the farm on his 21st birthday and set out to be a career musician while also learning to speak English for the first time. In his 20s, he toured with and led several bands and performed on South Dakota radio, which led to a successful daily radio program that ran from 1927 through 1936. In the 1930s, he traveled with his big band and played dance halls with his smooth, light, sweet style that had become known as champagne music. In the 1940s, the band began a celebrated 10-year residency at the Trianon Ballroom in Chicago, where he also worked at times at New York's Roosevelt Hotel. They would travel there. In 1951, Welk moved to Los Angeles and began the highly successful The Lawrence Welk Show and continued to record several hits, including his biggest hit, Calcutta, in 1961. Welk's show resonated well with middle Americans, as his more conservative music rejected the newer innovations of rock and roll and jazz and such. Welk was also an astute businessman and made money in publishing, hotel management, music stores, restaurants, and real estate. Lawrence Welk passed away in 1992. Okay, so let's check out a little of Lawrence Welk's music. Here we will listen to the 12th Street Rag. It's a song written by Uday Bowman that dates back to 1898. The song has been covered by many notable artists, including Louis Armstrong. Lawrence Welk plays his version in the polka style, showing off his skills as an accordion player. 12th Street Rag. Eddie Blazonczyk was a vocalist and bassist who was born in Chicago in 1941 to Polish immigrants. He is also the founder of Bel Air Records. Before fully embracing polka, he toured with Buddy Holly, Gene Vincent, and Peggy Lee, all legends. Many of his recordings fall into the category of novelty records, at least many of his early recordings. Then he turned to polka music and is credited with developing a more rhythmic style of Polish-American polka known as the Chicago Push with his band, the Versatones. And that band, Blazonczyk sings in both English and Polish and also plays the bass. We will listen to his version of Polka Celebration. The lyrics speak for itself, so let's party and have a good time. You bring your friends, and I'll bring mine. Alfred Mather Yankovic, no relation to Frankie Yankovic, was born in 1959 in Downey, California, and you may know him as Weird Al Yankovic, the most famed parody songwriter of all time. He was also a very gifted accordion player, and he began lessons at age 7. Never looked back. A smart child, Weird Al skipped a grade and was nearly 2 years younger than many of his classmates, which was socially difficult for him, and also he was pretty sheltered by his parents. So he turned to comedy and music. Al graduated as his high school valedictorian, then attended California Polytechnical State University, where he adopted the Weird Al name while hosting a radio program. Weird Al became obsessed with the Dr. Demento radio program, a show that played novelty music and comedy bits. In 1979, he submitted a bathroom recording of My Bologna, set to the hit song My Sharona by the Knack. He sent it to Dr. Demento's show, and it was frequently aired. From that, he received his first recording contract. Throughout the 1980s, he found incredible fame with songs like Eat It, set to Michael Jackson's Beat It, and White and Nerdy, but there's a bunch. And then he released the film and movie soundtrack UHF in 1989, which failed miserably. And he was also at this time struggling to get licensing to several of the songs that he was making parodies of. So it was a bit of a struggle for him moving into the 1990s. But then he hit big again with a parody of Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit called Smells Like Nirvana. More and more hits followed. Weird Al continues to entertain. He's become a cultural icon and a welcomed figure who has brought laughter and joy to many fans. Much of his work is played in the polka style. Although it's pretty silly, Weird Al is great at what he does. Check out this version of a song he calls Polka Face. It's a polka recreation of several popular hits from 2010s. And it's played in a polka style. So it includes songs by Lady Gaga, Britney Spears, Katy Perry, Justin Bieber, Pink, just to name a few. Polka Face. Some bands have incorporated more rock and punk into polka music. One such band is the Polkaholics. There are two Polkaholics bands. The one I'm talking about is the one from Germany. They are Polkaholics. Founded in 2001, they have reanimated Berlin's polka tradition in their own unique way by blending ska, rock, and polka. Here they are reinterpreting Billy Idol's 1982 hit White Wedding, which also blends a guitar riff from ZZ Top's La Grange. This version of White Wedding comes from their album Sex, Drugs, and Sauerkraut. Check it out. White Wedding by the Polkaholics. All right, my friends, we did the thing. We checked out polka music. We talked about its earliest roots, its move to an American novelty kind of music, and its popularity worldwide. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Go to 30 Albums for 30 Years to find out more about what's going on with the podcast. Have a wonderful day. Let's keep this music alive. Peace.